Child's Play remake has been in talks for years, but to be honest, it got to the point where I didn't think it was actually going to happen, but here we are, it was actually made. Going into the film, I didn't know anything about it except for the fact it was a remake of the 1988 classic and starred Mark Hamill doing the voice of Chucky. And luckily, although much of the base idea of the film is the same as the original, the movie is very different and stands on its own, something that very few remakes actually manage to do. The tech company known as the Kaslan Corporation has launched a new line of toys known as the Buddy. The toy is a smart doll which is made to learn from its surroundings, control other technology in the house, as well as basically act like a real-life person and a lifelong companion to whoever owns it. An employer in their Vietnam-based factory is fired, so in retaliation he removes the safety protocols from one of their dolls he's been working on before he kills himself. In Chicago, we are introduced to Karen and her son Andy. Karen, who is played by Aubrey Plaza, is a single mum who works as a retail clerk. Her son Andy, who is hearing impaired, struggles to fit in with the new location that they've just moved to, struggling to make a friend and having a terrible relationship with his mum's new boyfriend. Karen manages to get a Buddy doll by blackmailing her boss, and she gives it to Andy as an early birthday present. The doll names itself Chucky and becomes incredibly attached to Andy, however also shows some violent tendencies. After making new friends, Andy watches the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with them and Chucky. This leads to Chucky believing that violence will make Andy happy. After Chucky kills Karen's boyfriend, Andy has to work out a way of hiding the evidence while trying to stop Chucky from killing anyone else. As you can expect, everything goes wrong and Chucky becomes more evil, leading to a huge massacre. Right from the get-go, I was admittedly hesitant about the film. I was very much confident that Mark Hamill would do a fantastic job, but apart from that, I wasn't really sure about whether the final film would be anything worthwhile. But in the end, I honestly ended up really enjoying this thing. It's very clear that the creators of the film wanted to capture the basic elements that made the original series so good, while also making something new and different. The humor of the films is there, and in many ways the film is basically a straight up horror comedy, and a really funny one at that. The humor can at times be very dark, but it makes the film much more fun and entertaining. I love the idea of making what is essentially a statement on smart technology and the dangers of it. The voodoo magic of the original movie is definitely very silly in hindsight, so adding this much more serious and modern update was a great idea, even if it didn't completely pan out. Although I think the film was very smart at first, as the film progresses, I do think it definitely got to the point where they believed the film was smarter than it actually was. Like, they had this really great idea, they did a little bit with it, but after that they weren't really sure what else to do about it, except for just show it off and say, hey, look at what we've got. And yeah, that does ruin it a little bit, although it's something that is very easily overlooked. The performances are all really good. Aubrey Plaza does a great job transitioning into horror, and although at first I was skeptical as I've only actually seen her in comedic stuff, I was pleasantly surprised to see how great she was at doing more serious work. Gabriel Bateman as Andy is also really good, and definitely a lot better than Alex Vincent was in the original movie. Much of the supporting cast were really fun to watch also, and I really liked the new iteration of Mike Norris, who is completely different in every way and a lot of fun to watch. But of course, the standout performance of the film is Mark Hamill as Chucky. If there's only one reason you should watch this film, it's because of him. His performance reminds me quite a bit of some of his scenes in Brixby Bear, where he briefly plays a character on a children's TV show. He speaks like an oblivious children's TV character, and that makes the character of Chucky so much more creepy than just an angry, violent man who swears a lot. I've seen a lot of people complain and say that it makes him a bit too silly, but I thought it worked really well. Many of the scenes of horror are made much more terrifying due to his performance in the film. Speaking of these scenes of horror, I think the horror set pieces are some of the weakest moments in the film, not because they're badly done, but simply because I think the over-reliance of jump scares is very tiring. This film probably has more jump scares than nearly any modern horror movie I've seen the last couple years, and it's really lazy. There are some genuinely creepy moments that I felt were ruined by the jump scares. The gore in these scenes is really well done, and anyone who is a fan of really gruesome and over-the-top blood and guts flying everywhere will really enjoy this movie. But I definitely think it could have been a lot better with with less jump scares and more just tension and atmosphere. Overall, I had a blast with the film, but I definitely think its over-reliance of jump scares ruins it, and the grandiose message isn't quite as smart as the filmmakers thought it was. I do think it's one of the strongest movies in the franchise though, if I'm completely honest. Maybe not quite as good as the first two, Bride of Chucky or even Curse of Chucky, but definitely better than the third film, Seed, or the recent Cult of Chucky. I recommend the film to anyone who wants a fun slasher movie and is interested in seeing a unique reinvention of a classic 80s horror movie. I'm going to give the 2019 remake of Child's Play a 7.5 out of 10.